Hey guys, we just had a 6.20 earthquake, which is pretty good size here, just south of us, not too far away at all. It was close enough that we could feel it pretty good. It was actually shaking the house pretty good. I didn't feel it. I was in the shower and I wasn't really paying attention, but somebody else felt it and they were telling me about it. So, and usually we get some big cracks in our walls. Luckily, this time here we didn't get any big cracks. Even if we get like a 5 or 5.5, we usually our cracks keep extending. And that usually shows us, how much of a shaker it was. This time here, I looked at the cracks, though. They hadn't moved, but sometimes it takes a while for the settling to occur, and then all of a sudden, within like a day or two, they move a little bit. But anyway, today I want to talk a little bit about the difference between Americans and Filipinos, and there is a big, huge difference. And I'm not trying to paint all Americans as bad or anything when I say this. And it's just something that I noticed, that when you hear people really step up to the plate when they see an expat in need or something like that. The Filipinos really step up to the plate and will really help you when you're in need. And I come into contact with a lot of expats sometimes that have issues and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell a story. I've told this story a long time ago, and I know a lot of the new people have not heard this story. And what happened was we had this guy a long time ago. I'm going to tell a couple of stories on here because I think this is really relevant to show why most expats pick the Philippines as a place to retire. And we obviously have our upsides and our downsides, because there are traits in Filipinos that are really, really good, and with some of the younger girls here, it can be really difficult with some of them, a certain percentage of them. And it goes the same way with the expats, of course. But there's something in the Filipinos that when they see that you have an issue, they really, really do step up to the plate and they try to help you. If you ask them for help, they have this humanitarian side of them that it's just different than Americans, I think, that they really, really want to help, and they really want to be the person that helps you. They really... It's really hard to explain, because I've noticed this for myself and for the expats here that have needed help. When I've asked if there's any Filipino that can help this person or whatever, somebody always steps up. And it's usually more so than the Americans, I'll say. And that's an interesting take on this, is that. But anyway, I want to tell the story about this gentleman that he lived up north up here. And he was a friend of mine, and he was calling me during an issue that he was having with his then wife. And I'm not going to give his name because I believe in privacy. Only he knows the story, and a few other people. But anyway, what happened was his wife kicked him out, and I guess she got somebody in the barangay to kick him out and told him he had to leave or something. And she had contacts in the barangay, relatives or something like that, because her relatives were all the ones that ran the government up there, and he I guess chipped in to buy the property. And he had no pensions. He had no pensions at all. He had always worked odd jobs, didn't save any money, had no savings. He put it all into the property, figuring he was going to be married for the rest of his life. And this is an issue that a lot of you guys should keep in mind, that if you get married here and you put all your life savings and you have no pensions and nothing to fall back on, be very careful, because this is the problem here that happens to many people. They find themselves penniless here. And this is what happened to this guy. And fortunately, we were able to salvage something for him that he could live over here and actually live pretty well. And what happened was this. When he talked to me, he told me he had no place to live, and we found him a place to live. It was a Filipino who stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, I'm going to help this guy. And she let him live there. I think it was like over 6 months, it seemed like. I'm not sure how long it was, but at first we were working on, because he said he had no Social Security, okay, and we later found out that he did have it. But this is what happened. We took him up to window 1 to get a repatriation loan. He did not want to leave, no way, no how, and he was really adamant about staying here. And I says, dude, there's no way you can stay here and survive. You're gonna be living in the streets or living in your van, and where are you gonna get money? You're gonna be bumming off people? You can't live like that. He finally agreed that we could send him back. I was gonna send him back to Massachusetts to try to get some help at either the soldiers' home back there or a homeless shelter. First it was gonna be a homeless shelter, and then they said that they could help him get situated in a home and get food and medical care and all that stuff back there. They said it would take probably anywhere from 3 months to a year to get him situated and get him help that he really needed. And we noticed that he was kind of walking funny, breathing funny, and having issues walking, and it was partially because of his breathing and stuff like that. He was really suffering when we brought him in there, and I noticed that there was something wrong with him, but I didn't ask him what was going on. I could just tell that his breathing, he seemed to be always gasping for breath. But anyway, we took him in there, and when we got him up to the repatriation window, they said that they could help him. He just had to get 3 people that would turn him down and say that they couldn't help him. And he was really struggling even to get 3 friends back home, because a lot of people, when they're over here for a long time, and he had been here for a long time, they lose contact with people back home. They just do, and he had. But he said he still had numbers and stuff like that. And I told him, if needed, he could even use me. I don't know if he used me or not, but anyway, he filled out the paperwork, and come to find out afterwards, after talking to him while he was filling out the paperwork, I asked him, I says, listen, how many quarters do you have on Social Security? You must have worked some jobs that were normal jobs. And he says, well, I did, but not 40 quarters worth, not 10 years worth, and I says, well, why don't we just go check? It can't hurt to check. You're 60 something years old, 62 years old. I said, let's go check for the heck of it. We're right here. It's right over there at the window over there. We'll go up and we'll ask and see where you're at. Well, after we left window 1, we walked over there and we talked to a couple of the people over there, and they found out that he did have 40 quarters and that he could draw $525 a month. Now, that was like 3 years ago. It's probably up to around probably $600 a month now. But anyway, it was enough for him to stay here. That's questionable. I don't think $525 a month or $600 a month is really enough to live over here. But he had money, and he had his van, but he had a place to stay, and he had money for food, and he stayed there for a while, I guess, and he had a girlfriend at the time too. And during this time, I talked to him about putting in a claim, because I found out that his breathing issues had to do with he worked on an aircraft carrier, he said, and a hose broke or something, and he got sprayed with jet fuel. Okay, and he was totally soaked in jet fuel and breathed it in, and it damaged his lungs. And I guess it was put in his medical records, because I guess he had to show up and get all that washed off him and everything, and he breathed in a lot of those fumes. And that gets into your pores and stuff too, and it gets into you, and I guess it can even probably cause cancer or something like that, I would imagine. But he was lucky that he didn't have that. But it did damage his lungs. But he didn't have the lung damage right away. It was over time that happened. And he said he always had some issues with breathing and his skin all the time. But he never put in for a disability, because he just thought that it was too late. He thought that, they'd just turn him down and say no, because that's what we hear all the time about people getting turned down to put in for this stuff, unfortunately. And it puts a damper on people putting in for this. So I told him to put in for it. I didn't know how much he was going to get. I could tell by looking at him, he was probably going to get 50 to 70%, somewhere in that range, maybe even 100%, because he was just really in bad shape. And he was having problems walking because of the breathing issues and other issues. So anyway, he put in for it, okay? And he ended up getting like 70%. And that's a really good amount, considering that he had 525. So he was actually in the sweet spot range then. He went from nothing and being homeless on the streets to having this money. And then later on, he moved out of the woman's house and he moved in with his girlfriend. And I haven't heard from him since, but he was in a good spot. He was in a really, really good spot. And it was due to the help that he got from that lady letting him live there. And, I helped him also. And the people at those windows helped him. And we're really grateful to the people at both Social Security and at Window 1 too, at the embassy, because all of this was kind of boosting the way he felt. And when you're homeless, man, that's a terrible place to be. I'm lucky that I've never been homeless, fortunately. When I was back home, when I went through a divorce back there, I was I was lucky because I was really, really close one time, and it was just like 2 weeks away from getting my paycheck, and I almost didn't have a place to live, but I had this landlord that said, "Oh, I can wait, Steve. I know where you work," and stuff like that. And I was almost going to live in my car for 2 weeks because I was so desperate at the time, and I just had paid off all my bills and stuff like that, which was a good feeling. And I didn't want to lose that, I didn't want to go up and bum money off anybody or anything like that. And what I did was I just asked this lady, and she helped me. And that's the great thing about sometimes when people step up to the plate and they see that you're in need or something like that, and they help you, because sometimes people are they've been scammed so many times that we're afraid when somebody treats us good. Sometimes we think we're going to get scammed again. And this lady actually helped me, and I was very grateful that she did help me, because it saved me. But this guy here that I'm talking about, he was really lucky that he had all that help. And he was lucky that the Filipina let him live in his house for over 6 months. And this is what I'm saying about Filipinos. Sometimes they will help you a lot. I myself have had help from both my VA doctor, and I'm very thankful and grateful for what she's done for me, because she has been a blessing, a big, huge blessing, and people at the VA have helped me a lot. With different things there, with situations, both with my health and everything. And that's something that I'm grateful for there, because they've really stepped up to the plate there. And also my doctors that aren't at the VA have also helped me. And my therapist here has helped me tremendously. And she's gone way over and above the usual therapy stuff in helping me, just trying to keep me relaxed so the pain does subsides and stuff like that. Because the problem with my pain is that when I get up in the morning is the greatest pain with sciatica, and it takes about 3 to 5 hours for me to get situated and get rolling, and sometimes I'm not working till like 11, and today it's like around 11:19. I was in the shower and I was screaming taking a shower because the pain going down my leg from the sciatica was really great. And I almost need somebody to help me get dressed in the morning. And then once I get rolling, I'm okay, usually about 3 to 5 hours later. It varies each day, and some days I'm in pain all day. And this has been the longest. I've had it for 3 months before, but not to this extent. I was bedridden when I first got over here for 3 months having sciatica. And this time here, I was bedridden for 4 days. And then after that, I could kind of function most of the day. It's hard for me to get into tricycles really, really bad, because just bending my leg, I have to kind of leave my leg hanging out of the tricycle when I go for a ride or whatever, or sit on the back of the motorcycle or whatever to go someplace, and it can be really painful. But once I get out walking, it loosens up the back, and it loosens up my hip muscles and everything, and it seems to get better. And if it wasn't for Filipinos here and people coming in to check on me and help me, and this is both expats and other people, and people going shopping for me, and I have a couple of kids in the house that help me, and they're college, well, they're ready to go into college pretty soon, and they're helping me around the house, cleaning the house and stuff like that, and their mom comes over to help me. And I'm very grateful for having them there, because they also help me. But everybody in the neighborhood has checked on me at least once or twice. And that's the difference between Filipinos and Americans, I think. I'm grateful for the expats here, because they have stepped up to the plate. They have helped me. They come over to visit me or sit and talk with me, because it can be lonely sometimes when you're sitting in a house all day and you're suffering, and you got nobody to talk to, and you're trying to call people and stuff like that. It gets difficult, and it's good to have that camaraderie of people checking on you and people texting me and stuff like that. And I'm still getting work done and helping the people with the SRRVs. But when I go to help somebody with the SRRVs, here's the problem. The problem is that I have to get up at almost 3 a.m. in the morning to get functioning and to get out walking, so I can get my hip and back into place, because it takes that long to get going. And then I got to hop in the van and go up north to help the people at the PRA, the guys that are getting the SRRV visas, and we have to take them around and help them out. And it can be rough sometimes, and sometimes I think sometimes I feel like giving up on on everything and saying, maybe it's that time. It's time, Steve. It's getting rough, but I don't want to give up on that. I like helping people, and and when I see the Filipinos, the way they help us, it kind of pushes me to want to help people more. If I gave up doing this stuff, I think the orphanage would probably suffer, because we help support that orphanage, and a lot of other things would suffer too, the food programs and things like that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want to stop, and we have a lot of Filipinos that help us with those programs too. Both the barangay captain here in Luciano, he's been a great help. We have Glenda. Glenda is a great help with the scanners and helping us set up stuff, for the feeding programs for the poor in our barangay, and all the expats here make those donations to give that rice, and it's not a great amount of rice or anything. We give them a thing of water so they can sit there and sip on it on the way home. We don't have a lot of donations, but the donations that we have, we're able to help 72 people and give them a bag of rice. It's probably good for like about 5 days, maybe, or something like that. And that's just, it's a little bit of a help, but at least it's something. We're hoping probably maybe in August we can do a lot more for these people and really, really help some of these people a lot more, because they really, really need that help. And we've been doing it, and some of the guys are saying that they're willing to donate a lot more money so we can do that. And next time I'm hoping we can get some bigger bags of rice. That would certainly help, and I know a lot of the guys here will help. And we don't ask for donations from you guys at all, because we just ask for donations in our expat community. I'm not trying to make you guys make donations, so don't call me or anything, because we're not looking for donations from you guys. We handle that all ourselves. But anyway, I just want to say that about Filipinos today, because if it wasn't for the Filipinos that did step up the plate and do their jobs and go that step further, a lot of us would be in a worse place here. And I think most expats here will tell you, as much as we get ticked off about the out of stock and things like that, overall, Filipinos are still the best people in the world. The most humanitarian, the most loving people, the most caring people. That's why a lot of them make great nurses and stuff, because they really do care about people. They really do have this place in their heart for people, for caring for people and loving people. And it's something that a lot of Americans don't have. I mean, I remember being in the hospital and having tough nurses, and I remember I had had a heart attack, okay, and I was in the hospital, and I didn't get fed for 24 hours. And finally, I asked the nurse, I says, when do you get fed around here? And she goes, oh, you haven't been fed? I says, ma'am, I've been here for 24 hours, and I asked for food twice, and the lady must have been on the end of her shift, because when I asked for that lady, they said she had already gone home. She didn't even go out and tell the other nurses that I was looking for food. And I told that nurse, and then they had some other person in another room have some problems, so they had forgot about me again, and it ended up being about 24 hours later. I asked for lunch or breakfast or whatever. We got a big bee flying around here, and I don't know if you can see it there. Anyway, he's flying around here. But anyway, they didn't feed me for 24 hours. So I asked them, and they says, oh yeah, we'll go get you a sandwich in the refrigerator. We have some sandwiches in there that they bring up in case you guys are hungry. And I looked at the lady, I says, I'm really not looking for just a sandwich, but a sandwich would help. I says, what do you have? She goes, oh, we have chicken salad sandwiches and egg salad sandwiches over there. I'll get you one of those, and if you want it, I'll get you a drink. And I'm like, okay, whatever, So I ended up calling a friend of mine, and he brought me in a sub sandwich. And actually, I was grateful for that he brought me in a sub. It was the only person that visited me while I was in there, because everybody was busy. I was calling people, and they says, hey, I can't right now, Steve, I'm working with it. And I understand that, that happens. And I remember being stuck in it. Fortunately, it was only like a mild heart attack, and it was caused from some stress at work, and that's what happened. But over here, I noticed the nurses, when I was in the hospital over here, that the nurses here really wanted to help you. They really wanted to assist you and make you better. And it's something different about the Filipino people that a lot of Americans don't have. And I'm not saying Americans don't have it as a whole. I'm just saying, I think the percentage wise of Americans compared to Filipinos, I would say Filipinos are way more caring than Americans. Americans are a different lot of people. They're so divided now. They look at it like, I don't really want to help this person because this person's, this way or something like that. And that's not the way to be. I think we all need to be more humanitarian and stuff, and like the Filipino people, be more like them. And I know, like I said, I noticed that when people were down and out and they had a lot of issues here, it was the Filipinos that stepped up the most. Not to say the expats didn't step up, because a lot of them did, but it was the Filipinos that stepped up the most. When I was looking for help for expats, to help these expats, it was Filipinos that stepped up. Filipinos that I was talking to, and it was usually the older group of Filipinos that were willing to step up and help these people and care for these people, and even make them food when they were living in their houses and stuff like that. One of the guys was pretty picky about what he ate, and she went out and bought stuff with her money and bought this guy food and stuff. And how can you not be grateful for something like that, for somebody like that? That's a blessing, a huge blessing. But anyway, guys, I wanted to talk about that. I thought it'd be a great story today because of everything that's going on in the world today. And, thought you guys might enjoy that. But anyway, guys, God bless. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.